So basically what these voices were trying to convince me was that they like killed the whole world, like literally killed the whole world, and what I was seeing was just like an illusional thing, like it doesn't exist. It was just like put up there to make me believe it existed, but I was the last one to exist, and that I managed to stop its plan, because I went through this tedious and long process, this continuous battle, word battle in my head to kill its story, to end its story. But so I just kept on talking to it non-stop, day and night without sleep. And when I would black out, it was almost like I was falling into a coma. But then every day I just found a new reason to live. And the only reason I had to live was because I was all by myself, and my family was back home in Kenya and I was in South Africa. So I was like, okay, I have to see them one more time. So I kept at it and I just didn't stop. So it was for love, and kind of just because I love him that much. So I was like, I kept going, and so love is a very powerful thing. And also just to the whole instinct to survival is a very powerful thing as well. So that's what the kind of mental soldier attitude you have to keep. You have to have a reason to live, and live because you deserve to live. Just like the stars and the trees, you have the same reason, and the same you have the same exact reason to live as those things, as everything else in the universe. Not tithing, not taking Holy Communion. Sometimes you need to fast for every now and then, just like how the Muslims do it. Or you have to pray often, and also you have to shower often. You have to wash your feet, especially if you're not going to shower. Make sure you wash your feet, because they are a huge part of the temple, of your temple. And then if you're going to use an anointing oil, put it on your forehead, because then you block the third eye from being had access to by demons, which give way to other demons to take over and sort of like kind of take shifts, if you can put it that way. And then as well, you have to just be clean. And then before you use anointing oil, make sure you are clean. And as well, you also have to take to the altar a burnt sacrifice every now and then. And before you go into prayer, like in the same way in the tabernacle or the Mishkan, there's a process, like make your burnt sacrifice, and then put the blood, and then you wash your hands, and then go and anointing oil, and then you go into the tent, and you can speak to God. But only the high priest can go into exactly where they have the loaves of bread and all the other ceremonial kind of ritual sacrifice to God. Like, funny enough, the more the demon tries to suck up your energy, in the way the Bible says that whatever you've lost, you shall gain tenfold more, is actually a reality. Because when you get, like, when it wears you out, like you wear out on the inside, but you gain on the inside. So your God is like building your inner self, your spiritual realm, and then you wear out on the outside, but it's kind of like you gain out of it. Like, for example, when you have sensory deprivation from being tormented by this entity, then you get like the most craziest ideas in your subconscious when you're trying to sleep, and then you think about something on such a deep level that you've never thought before. It untaps a part of your brain that you've never untapped, and it's quite amazing actually. So you have to, like, keep vigilant, and you have to be in sobriety and kind of more alert, so you can like record these things and put them down and understand them. Don't just, some of them you dismiss, you can filter, but many of them you have to record and remember as well. Just try to eat like during the day, and then maybe fast at night, because at night is when like darkness, that's when the dark dark forces come to light. That's when they act most. So it's better to fast at night and then and even sleep hungry, because then it has no energy to harass you or torment you and torture you. But then during the day, that's when you should eat and use, if you're using stimulants, coffee or whatever, whether it's Ritalin or Adderall, whatever the doctor has prescribed for you, then that's when you use that. But in certain quantities, not ODing, not overusing it, because then you kind of flip and then you go cuckoos. So you have to be very careful like how you're using your medication as well. Also make sure that you try to reduce things like coffee. Don't drink too much coffee, because it brings anxiety, it gives you indigestion. And cigarettes as well, they release dopamines in your brain. So it's about taking the right quantities of the right chemicals to release the right chemical chemical balance in your brain. And that's a very important thing. Whatever you release in your brain is how you're gonna think or act or feel, because it'll add to your anxiety or your emotional status and your emotional thoughts, and race or relax. So depressant or stimulant or whatever it may be, just make sure you take it in the right amounts. Like Satan always uses what you want as a weapon, like the way he tried to tempt Jesus in the desert, like I'll give you the world if you do this and that, or if you're God, then turn the stone into bread. So he'll try like temptation. He'll use temptation to try make you feel like you have everything, but you don't. It's just deceit, it's deception. So at the same time, when you're engaging in spiritual warfare and he notices that you're succeeding, or you're overcoming his powers, then he might use sleep as a weapon. So you start to feel sleepy all of a sudden. When you're reading the Bible, you just feel sleepy. Or when you're engaging in warfare and you're doing your thing, after half an hour you're like, oh, okay, let me just rest for a while and then I'll do it after that. But that's the whole thing. Do not fall for that. You have to use all your energy, and you have to succumb to the end. You have to have the endurance and the perseverance to go till the end and remain faithful. So that's also a weapon he uses, and you have to stay awake. Do not sleep, because when you sleep, you've given in, and he is using that as a weapon. So the more endurance you could just be a second away from your deliverance. So every day you might keep sleeping, and every day could be the day of your salvation, the day of deliverance. So keep that in mind. Just remember, like, to have a strategic plan, especially for your prayerful life, like how you pray. It has to, at least if you're going to do it twice a day or 3 times a day, make sure you wake up early in the morning to do it. That's when it's fresh and the sky is clean, and that's a very good time. Like, even most prophetic figures in the Bible and in the past do it early in the morning. They woke up early in the morning. Even Jesus Christ himself did it early in the morning. He woke up and meditated, and he prayed. Your relationship with God has to be to be an early bird, and then wake up early, do a prayer, and then do something. Praise is a good way to start the day, like singing, and then maybe in the middle of the day, and then at night before you sleep as well. So it makes a huge difference as well. And if you can't sleep, if you have sleeping problems, then make sure you use that time well, because what do demons do? They still kill, and they're here to destroy. So you have to use that time to make sure it's not stealing your time. It's trying to steal your time as well by distracting you. So when you can't sleep, don't try sleep if you can't sleep, or do things that are not profitable for your future. So you have to do something that will gain, or you will gain from, so you do not lose anything out of it. By the way, please have less interest in like too much science, because it's only a man-made thing, and you don't want to know too much because we can't see it. And it's like things like telekinesis and telepathy and being psychic and all those things. Try to know a bit less of them. I mean, it's too much information, and why try to be supernatural if you're in this physical world? Just enjoy the physical realm while you're at it. Because it's quite scary actually to know too much, and then it freaks you out and it freaks everyone else out as well. So yeah, ignorance is bliss, and as well oblivion is a good thing sometimes, because then you just don't know, and that's just the way it should be. So this thing about like depression, or if you have an issue with someone, make sure you either forget about it immediately or deal with it. Confront it. You have to confront it and deal with it immediately. If the person you're dealing with is not possible to accept your apology or to forgive you and move on, then you have to forgive yourself and forget about it. Because when you think about it and replay it in your head often and often, then it turns into something, an emotion that you can't get rid of. And especially if it affects you, if you're an emotional person and then you stop eating, or maybe you think about it and it goes on for days and then weeks and then months and then years. It can even last for decades. That's how people get into depression. And then once you get into depression, you get a mental disorder. You can get bipolar, or you can get post-traumatic stress, or you can get anxiety of one sort or the other. There are numerous like mental disorders you can develop from that, especially schizophrenia, which is mostly common nowadays, and which they diagnose people for, and millions of people have to deal with it nowadays. Even if you don't have schizophrenia, it could be a demonic problem, but they will diagnose you with schizophrenia, and schizophrenia is also a demonic type of mental battle that you have to face. And once you get it, the medicines, the medication that you get, that you are prescribed for, have only start working long term. So you have to take them for a long period of time for them to start being effective, and then they don't necessarily work by the first prescription you get, so you have to keep changing them in the dosages, so you know which one is the correct one for you, the correct combination, which is terribly, it's actually very it takes a lot of time and patience, and it's just a tedious process. And these medicines can actually kill you, because, for example, I just kept adding the dosages because I couldn't sleep, so I was sleepless, kind of insomnia kind of thing, and the demonic entity tries to keep you awake because when you're trying to fall asleep, then it moves a part of you, or just does something so you can wake up again. It's just destructive like that. It doesn't have a purpose to keep you awake or for you to be asleep, because when you're awake, it's just speaking and talking to try buy your time and understand your brain more, and try take over your brain. And when you're asleep, it's giving you the worst nightmares you could ever imagine, like beyond your worst imagination. But then when you are just about to fall asleep, if you're on medication and it's very heavy, then it wakes you up. So your heart starts to beat, because you get a fright. It's kind of like a fright from being too sleepy and then being woken up. So it's very, very dangerous, and it can actually give you a cardiac arrest. And I went through that so many times, and I kept, the next morning when I woke up, I was like, oh my goodness, that was so close to death. And it's actually a very serious issue. Like, medication can actually kill you, or it can give you sleep. But the thing is, once you stop taking the medication, it can either be unstable or stable. So it's up to you to be stable or unstable. I mean, people have different, situations or case scenarios, so they have different reactions and different types of, problems. But people also like OD on that kind of situation, because they can't sleep and they take more and more, which is more than they've been prescribed for per night. or per dosage, so be very careful. But then on the supernatural level, like what the demon is trying to do is try to keep you awake as much as it possibly can, so that when you do fall asleep and you're tired and you're like exhausted, like totally exhausted, then you fall into this like trance kind of sleep, like sleep paralysis type of thing, where you can't move, you can't wake up, like a coma type of a thing. But then it chooses a crazy nightmare that can kill you in your sleep. So it'll just make it so it's almost like a vision. That's how you get visions. Like it's almost like a vision, but that it chooses. Sometimes it's its own dream, but sometimes it's actually a vision that you're meant to remember and tell everyone about, or write down on paper, or capture and express it. So because it has a relevance or some sort of significance in the world that no one else can see, because it's actually more supernatural than what anyone can see in real life. So it actually has deeper meaning, but it's more intense and it's very, very deep. So that's, I think, how a vision begins. But sometimes it's just like a deep, a very vivid image or picture or capturing of what that demon that lives in you or around you is wanted to see for itself, because it doesn't have a body that it can see or visualize that from its own brain. It doesn't have a brain, so it's just something that we can't decipher, but it must have some deeper level meaning. But it's using it selfishly to understand something that it can't see or can't have, because they're using our bodies as vessels that they don't have. And that's the whole point. So the worst day of my life is when there was a big stronghold on that particular day, where suddenly I could hear 10 voices of 10 different people attack me. It was a sudden attack, like a bombardment of argumentative confrontational voices attacking me, and I had to answer each of them one by one at the same time without thinking. It was almost like something, the Holy Spirit overwhelmingly gave me the ability to reply and to respond to those voices, whatever they were asking. I don't even remember. I was just speaking my own things, even if I didn't do it the right way. If I had done it the right way, it wouldn't have lasted this long, because I would have spoken the word and then they would have fled from me. So if you speak the word, the devil will flee from you, and if you can resist him. So I engaged, but I was saying the wrong things. But anyhow, then after that I started running, because I was running away from the voices, and then it became quite hectic, because I was just confused, and I thought it was real people in the real world talking to me from afar away and looking for me, but they couldn't find me. But then that was my own kind of perception of what was going on. But then at the same time, and then when I ran, I just started running for 5 kilometers to this mansion that I knew of a friend of mine who was a maintenance guy. And I reached the mansion on top of the hill, and I thought that, because I was telling the voices to meet me there. I said, meet me at this such and such an address, and then I ran there, and when I reached there was no one, and then I was like, oh my goodness. So I've been running all this way and there's no one here. So then that's when the first revelation was brought to me, that it wasn't people, it was a spiritual entity, and that I couldn't run anywhere. It was with me, but I just couldn't see it. And then after that, when I went back and I slept the next day, and I woke up the next day, and I actually woke up at night before the next morning, and then by just suddenly I just felt this urge to wake up. And when I woke up, there were these guys standing from outside my window in a line, holding hands until the gate. And I think they knew what was going on. I'm not sure if those guys were Satanists, but they could feel the energy of that demon or that devil, whatever it was. And I think they knew what I was going through. Although, because I was telling guys, but they were not listening. But I think there was a few people who knew what was going on. I'm not sure if they belonged to a cult or they were Satanists or they were like... But anyhow, so they were standing outside my window and they were holding hands all the way to the gate. And I think they were trying to make the gate open by using my energies or what was attacking me, that energy of that entity, whatever. And it freaked me out, but I just pretended I didn't notice what was going on. And then I just, went along to ask them like, hey, you got a cigarette? And then I just said, okay, I'm going to sleep tonight. And then they left because I don't think it succeeded, or because I refused to cooperate, so that thing just didn't work for them or whatever they were doing. And then the next day when I wake up and I went out walking, all of a sudden I could hear this loud scream. There was a loud scream from the neighbors, and my fellow colleagues, like from the flat, my flatmates or my housemates, went to the neighbors to check what was going on, to hey, hello, is anyone there? Because they heard the scream. It was like a girl scream, and then no one answered. And at the same time I saw someone running across to the other side, and I was like, what's going on? And it freaked me out, and I thought it was me, because I thought all that commotion, all that weird stuff was coming from me. So I decided to walk away. But I walked away, and then when I came back, because I got tired of being away, and then when I come back, there's another guy who looked like he was going through the same thing as I was, because he was like squatting, holding his head with his hands over his head, and he looked like either he was going through like an intense voice battle in his head. So I was like, oh my goodness, is this happening to everyone at the same time, or is it happening because I'm around them? It was just a whole sort of confusion status that I had, and everything around me at the same time. So I don't know, I think the devil has his ways of making you believe in a deceitful way that everything that's going on around you is true, and it could be a coincidence. Like every time I would wake up, I would see that the clock is like 12:12. It was like very or like 10:10 or like 8:88. Just certain things that were just strangely numerically synchronized or the same, and sometimes it could be coincidence, or it could be deception. That's which is the devil's greatest trick, to be deceptive, and it's very convincing. But you just have to keep strong and believe. When you have faith, then you overcome that pressure or that deceitful way that the enemy will use against you.
Chapter 28. At the end of the Sabbath, as it began to dawn toward the first day of the week, came Mary Magdalene and the other Mary to see the sepulchre. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for the angel of the Lord descended from heaven, and came and rolled back the stone from the door, and sat upon it. His countenance was like lightning, and his raiment white as snow. And for fear of him the keepers did shake, and became as dead men. And the angel answered and said unto the women, Fear not ye, for I know that ye seek Jesus, which was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen, as he said. Come see the place where the Lord lay. And go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead, and behold, he goeth before you into Galilee. There shall ye see him. Lo, I have told you. They departed quickly from the sepulchre with fear and great joy, and did run to bring his disciples word. And as they went to tell his disciples, behold, Jesus met them, saying, All hail. And they came and held him by the feet and worshipped him. Then said Jesus unto them, Be not afraid. Go tell my brethren that they go into Galilee, and there shall they see me. Now When they were going, behold, some of the watch came into the city, and shewed unto the chief priests all the things that were done. When they were assembled with the elders, and had taken counsel, they gave large money unto the soldiers, saying, Say ye, his disciples came by night, and stole him away while we slept. And if this come to the governor's ears, we will persuade him and secure you. So they took the money, and did as they were taught, and this saying is commonly reported among the Jews until this day. Then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee, into a mountain where Jesus had appointed them. And when they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. And Jesus came and spake unto them, saying, All power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world.